Hello and welcome to CNBC Africa's Focus On segment with myself, Zinathi Gquma. Today we'll be focusing on art, and not just art, it's art through blockchain. After 15 years of a successful career in the finance industry, Amrita Sethi has gone on to become an award-winning multimedia and NFT tech artist, and she joins me now. Thank you so much for joining us, Amrita. Now, of course, I mentioned that your career started off in finance, over 15 years in the finance industry, and you went on to art. Before I go on specifically about blockchain art and digital art, just talk to me about your journey from going from the finance industry to the art industry.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, thank you so much for having me. It's absolutely pleasure to be talking to you today. So yes, I had actually went, from the corporate world originally as more of an entrepreneurial calling. I wanted to take what I was doing in the finance world and take it to do something on my own as such. But then I kind of connected to, I would say, one of those kind of, when we were young, some of us have creative hobbies, and I thought, oh, let me go and just connect a bit to that creative side in me. And when I did that, an amazing voice came out, and that was the voice that created my voice note art, which is what kind of then defined my art style, because I created something really that had never been seen before. So I capture, the shape of a sound. So it could be your name, it could be a city's name, it could be a concept. And I capture the shape and structure of the sound wave. And then each of the lines of the sound wave, I draw to match the meaning of the word. And I think that was really something amazing, that, going from the corporate world, wanting to be an entrepreneur, but then just finding, my voice, but in such a creative and artistic way.
Absolutely fascinating that you chose that kind of art style. Now, you mentioned actually off air that that art style was inspired by Maasai men. Of course, you are from Kenya. Just talk to me about that.
Yeah, so being born and brought up in Kenya, I'm a third generation Indian Kenyan, and I very much consider myself so much part of the fabric of Africa. And when I created the sound wave, how I kind of created it is, and it's not a story I tell that often, is I had wanted to create something for my husband. So I first said his name, and I captured the shape and structure of his name. And then I started drawing the sound lines, but I kind of put pressure on the tip of it and then pulled it down. When I did that, it looked to me like little stick Maasai men, because it was something that I was familiar with all my life, seeing the paintings of, the Maasai men on the side of the road, or when you go to galleries or hotels. And I thought, so I started like drawing them to look like Maasai men. But then I realized, but Maasai men have got nothing to do with my husband, because he's from Switzerland. So that's when I had this idea of, combining sound with the images that tell the story and capture the essence. So it's kind of started in Africa, and I love that.
And of course, it's gone full circle, because you've participated in Africa Blockchain Week. We will be delving deeper into that a little bit later. But just going from the physical form to digital and into blockchain, just paint some color for me, because of course we do know that artists really do start off in the physical form. You've done some murals as well. Just talk to me about that transition from the physical form to digital and then to blockchain.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I first created it, just by nature of what I'm talking about, so I'm capturing sound, I'm using technology to capture sound, and I'm trying to tell the story. So before I knew about NFTs or blockchain, and before digital art was something that you could commercialize, the only way you could actually kind of realize your story was through a physical form. So what I did is I first created my artwork, whether it was on, these wooden panels that you see behind me, or, through murals. I had to take my art physically out there so that people could understand the story. But even then, I started using technology very early on, because I used a QR code to play back the sound that made the original artwork. But then I still felt that it wasn't enough, if that made sense. It was still, you're still combining a physical form with digital. And the problem was, with digital art prior to NFTs is that once you create a soft copy, it's out there. So it's not like you can create a kind of uniqueness or scarcity from it. And it was only during the pandemic, because of COVID, what had happened is that a lot of the physical projects that I was working on all came to a grinding halt, right? Because obviously we were all locked in, and the world was in a pandemic, which then forced me, like millions of other people, billions of people, to kind of go virtual. And that's where I discovered the story of NFTs. And I was extremely excited to find that story, because then I was able to take it from this physical form into the digital form. But not only do that, but also make it unique and rare for me to be able to then, tell my story, not just within my world where I live, but then also to the whole world. And it also opened that up.
Amrita, it's really fascinating that you come from a finance background where the models and everything and the way of thinking there is traditional. And then you go into the space that a lot of people don't really understand, blockchain, where everything is unique and new. It's basically going from a centralized system to a decentralized system. How did you make sense of that? And also, were there some elements from your experience in the finance world help in understanding some of the things that you are seeing right now in blockchain?
Yeah, absolutely. So as I was saying, when I discovered NFTs, I was in lockdown, and because of my finance background, I understood, Bitcoin, I understood blockchain. So for me, it was extremely easy for me to understand that just like blockchain is the technology, but you also have, Bitcoin as the asset. It's the same with digital art. The art is the asset and the technology is blockchain. And really being able to mine that into the blockchain, create this unique code, which then has an ability to change so many things. And it is, especially with, art, it's the first use case scenario that I think the mass, adoption or the mainstream can understand. And so because I was from the finance world, I would say as an artist, I did find it easier to make that connection. I do appreciate that for other artists who maybe are not so tech savvy, it can be very daunting. And to that I say, it's a matter of just like anything else, just like using, learning new watercolor or acrylics. You have to take the time to educate yourself. Just see this as a new, I would say, tool in your paintbrush or your toolkit. And the exciting thing is these kind of new, tool, kind of things that like paintbrushes that are going to come out of your toolkit are going to be things like, 3D animation, virtual reality, augmented reality, and even artificial intelligence. And I think that's going to really change the way everybody sees art. So it's really exciting times ahead.
It's quite clear that this new form of art has really unlocked a deeper creativity within you. But just going to your art lovers, people that do experience your art, what kind of experience do you want them to get from your artwork?
So every time, I think what I want people to feel is I want to feel a real connection to, first of all, the story that's being told. So, you've heard the phrase, a picture's worth 1,000 words. But I love to kind of explore this concept of a word is also worth 1,000 pictures. So whether it's your name, whether it's a city, whether it's a concept like, for example, Africa blockchain, what images that come to your mind and what is the story that we're trying to tell? So I always think the first thing is the story, and the connection and the message that we're trying to get across, or I'm trying to get across. The second thing is I want people to embrace a new form of creativity through technology. I think sometimes we get so stuck in the way that how things have always been. And I think it's really important that we take a view and take a step back and we shift our thinking. We have a different viewpoint, because that is what, if we're going to grow and we're going to develop, that we have a different kind of paradigm mind shift to everything. And it starts with something as simple as art. So what I would love people to be able to do is when they see my art, I want them to be like, wow, I've never seen that before. Or two, I've never experienced that before, because art is no longer going to be a 2D, static physical object in your home. It's going to be an immersive and exciting experience that you're going to literally go off the page and into the art. And I'm really excited to kind of take people along with me on that creative journey.
And talking about wow, so you participated in Africa Blockchain Week, where your artwork is being auctioned there, and you actually created a unique NFT art piece called Africa Blockchain. It's a voiceover art. Just walk me through what is there. It's a really, really beautiful piece, and also what it means and the kind of story that you are trying to tell through that voice note art.
So, yeah, absolutely. So I was delighted and honored to be part of Africa Blockchain. As we've said, I was born and brought up in Kenya, but I've also lived in Uganda and Zimbabwe, but also traveled extensively around Africa. And obviously I love South Africa as well, and I have family there. And what I wanted to do is that, the story that I know of Africa is a very different one to, I feel, what sometimes has been portrayed about Africa. And what I wanted to do is move away from this kind of very black and white, bleak concept of Africa being only a place of poverty that needs handouts and, and that there's just like, that kind of very scarcity and lack of abundance. And I wanted to paint a real colorful image, one that really celebrates the rich natural resources of Africa, but also looking towards the future and what something like blockchain and future technologies can do to empower, the continent, but also, awaken some of these really strong, young, powerful voices that we have within the continent to really elevate and leapfrog out of, an old narrative into a new narrative, which is filled with hope and optimism. And I really, really, wanted that message to come across within this piece. So you'll see color, you'll see excitement, you'll see connectivity, and it'll talk about being able to give a voice for the voiceless, but not in a way that tells a pity story, but tells the voice of opportunity as well.
And I mean, Amrita, is there something unique about this particular NFT auction?
Yes, because with, my art, I always try to push the boundaries. So I've tried to do something different for the first time within this NFT auction. I've created the artwork Africa Blockchain. But what I want to do is I want to give people the opportunity to tell their story. So it becomes a generative piece of art. So I've created the piece first, but if it hits a certain marker within the auction, then the person or the winner of the auction is able then to send me an image of themselves or their logo or what they believe is the future of Africa and blockchain in Africa. And I will then draw that into a new artwork as well. If it hits a second marker, then they will be able to send me their voice as well as their image, and I'll create an animation that tells their story as well within the artwork. And because I always want to hold scarcity and rarity, then the new artwork will always be the one of one, and I will burn the first artwork that I originally made. So this is also a new use case, I would say, of NFTs. This is me also trying to push the boundaries and to see what more we can do with it, because NFTs is now one thing, but let's have some fun and let's also give people the ability to write their story into what they also believe is the future of Africa blockchain.
Absolutely fascinating. Using voice notes to create art. I mean, the only voice notes that I use are through WhatsApp, and I think the only art that they create is gossip through my WhatsApp. But thank you very much for walking us through that, Amrita. Really, really fascinating. Using art through blockchain. That was Amrita Sethi. She's an award-winning multimedia and NFT tech artist. Thank you very much for that. And that's it from today's Focus on a segment on CNBC Africa. From me, Zinathi Gquma. It's goodbye for now.